academics is very different from learning. That's what I believe. So academics is for the world to notice you on your, like, to showcase that, oh, I'm qualified, this is what I minimum that I bring onto the table. But learning is a continuous process that cannot stop. You stop learning.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I'm Sunny Pancholi, anchor at World Development Corporation. This is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. We have one such industry titan on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Mr. Vijay Kumar Puthukulangara. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, Mr. Vijay.
Good morning, Mr. Sunny. First of all, thank you very much, and hope you're having a great day. So, more, really excited to start the day with you. Go ahead.
Looking forward to it, sir. All right. So, Mr. Vijay is a senior professional with more than 1.5 decades of impressive track record in consulting, prominently within the big four consulting firms. His multifaceted expertise spans operations and business transformation, regulatory compliance, corporate governance, business strategy, and process re-engineering. Currently, he is giving his invaluable services to a number of clients in the capacity of an independent consultant. All right. So, Mr. Vijay, to begin with, could you provide a brief overview of your career journey, focusing on your 13 years of experience with Big Four firms?
Yes, Mr. Sunny. So, the year is 2006. Like most Indian students, I too finished my education, then moved into the industry. So, 2006, somewhere around April, I got into PwC as an intern for 3 months period. And during the phase, I joined their general consulting because having an MBA in general finance, I got into their general consulting practice. And within 3 months, they gave me an opportunity to be part of their vast global team. So this was in the Middle East. So I got placed with the Middle East team and joined the consulting with the financial services, looking after their governance, risk, and compliance practice within the service financial services, which is namely into central banking, banking, insurance, capital markets, etc., or anything to do with financial operations. This is what these team that services we did for the team that we looking at the clients across GCC, which is the Gulf Cooperative Council countries, which comprises of 6 countries. And later, within a year, I was pulled into their performance improvement team, again under the governance, risk, and compliance team, which helped me to start with what my career should look like. So started with small process improvement projects, which is nothing but you go into an organization, understand what they are from a process uh, session, and moving them into the next level of processes for the betterment of the organization or to upscaling of the organization, which after 1 or 2 years pushed me into the transformation arena, where I started taking up large transformations with corporate governance oriented projects, which nothing but starting from board charters, articles, writing articles of association or corporate for prospectuses and things like that, all the way to doing level 5 process mapping for organizations who are having multi-geo presence. So within the GCC, it could be across Middle East or it could be across MIASA, which is Middle East, Asia, and Africa, South Asia and Africa to be precise. So working around with teams of about 20 years for the next 20 year teams with multiple jurisdictions. It took me about for 10 years, first 10 years of my 13 years career, I've spent most of my time with governance oriented or regulatory compliance oriented project with for business transformations in most of my capacity. But later, once I moved out of PwC and moved to Deloitte, which I had a minor stint for 3 years, that is where the present me was shaped up, which I got an opportunity to run with, of course, this was a team of 4 or 5 members. We got an opportunity to run about 140 projects, transformational oriented projects, countrywide for a country government body, again, financial services body, which gave me a focus of about 40 plus projects of the 140 projects across the country, which was like working almost 7 days a week. And but the thing was, I really enjoyed that phase of my career where I did all this, right from writing business development documents, getting vendors on board, looking at their contracts, taking it to the legal teams of that organization, getting it vetted, getting it done. The documents come back. So head to toe of the entire transformation, project management, name and shame anything, everything under an organization was going to the center of me. So me and my team, basically it runs this way, that way, head tail. So it was pretty much we are in the center of a triangle and everything is running around it. And this gave me that understanding and the courage to start approaching organization as an independent consultant. As an independent consultant, what I mean is I can go into an organization, understand what the board is looking for. At the same time, I understand what the C-suite is doing, understand what the vendors are capable of, what the finance is capable of, what the teams are capable of, what is their vision as an organization. So I started to understand the depth and breadth from that time onwards. And in 2019, I decided to take a career break because I wanted to try something new. But 2019, as the world knows, was one of the worst years to think about moving out of the consulting or from a stable job and moving out to do something, trying different. And I moved to India for the first time as a grown up person, no contacts in this country, and had to start everything from scratch. And was planning again to move back because I tried for 6 months, it was not working. So I thought I'll move back, reset my career back in the Middle East and things like that. And that's when, of course, I got a contract, everything was done, and the pandemic rolled in, and in 2020 beginning, and I got stuck in India. So, in a nutshell, this is how my profession till then happened. And then onwards, my journey starts from there to what I am today. So, I'll give it back to you so we can talk about that in a bit.
Mr. Vijay, thank you for the excellent start to this interview. And I must say, your career journey is truly inspiring. All right. So, continuing our conversation, Mr. Vijay, ascending through the corporate ladder is never a linear path. We all know that, right? However, as we see that you have handled some really prominent roles, namely VP of Operations and Finance at Inker Robotics Solutions, Manager of Financial Advisory and Regulatory Services at Deloitte Professional Services, and Manager Financial Services Strategy and Operations at PricewaterhouseCoopers, etc. So, what are some pivotal moments in your professional life that owe your professional success to?
So, owing to professional success, the mantra is very simple. At least for me, I believe that 50% people say it's all smart work, but I say 50% is hard work. 30% is smart work and your networking, and 20 place is being at the right place at the right time. So this is the success mantra for me, at least. So with that, if you're ready to put in full efforts from your side, automatically it will take traction and you will grow as a professional. And being in a multiracial industry, living outside India for almost 30 years of my life, I'm 41 today, and for 30 years I lived outside India. I have dealt with people from different, what do you call it, ethnicities, different people from different walks of life, people, let's say, from governors, CEOs of that model, all the way till people who actually work in construction as construction managers and things like that. So I have worked with the whole spectrum, and this has given me an understanding of what people are and what people's skills are required when you talk to different classes of society. And this has helped me to go up the ladder. So projects which at times when my seniors or myself had was skeptical, thinking that we will not be able to achieve this, I was able to ring fences at times. Not, I'm not saying I'm the best of class, but most of the time when projects were given to me, my directors and partners had to, they could take a seat back and relax, and they can think about, okay, this guy will finish at least 60 to 80% of what is the requirement. We need to only handhold or need to intervene as and when there is a real crisis. There are, of course, things change from time to time. The dynamics change, the environment changes. Yes, I have had my own share of hand burns and things like that. Yes, but most of the time, I've always made sure that to move to the next level, I've always shown that what is to work in the next two levels above. And my seniors were kind enough, or I was grateful. I'll always be grateful to them, thinking that they gave me that strength and the capability to move to the next ladder, making sure that I am capable, at least for the next one or two levels of the ladder before pushing me to the next one. And things, because by the time I started off in 2006, and by the time I was 2000, by 2014, by the time I became a manager, it was not an easy ride. Every day was challenging, was promising. So I would put it together. It was challenging, at the same time, it was promising, because you take up challenges, you don't take up, somebody else will take up the challenge. So you take up a challenge, you work around it, it is promising. So there is always a reward, risk and reward thing. The higher the risk, the higher the reward, as we say for financial products or any product for that matter. Similarly, in one's career, you take a risk, you have a reward. There are risks which I did not take, and I have fallen flat on my face. But there are risks which I have taken and I've grown. So this is something I have learned it the hard way. No graduate schools or business schools are going to teach you that. They will teach you the theory, yes. How you want to practice it, how you want to do it, that is something different. So moving from an associate or a consultant to senior consultant, it took me some time, because I was very new to the dynamics of how the corporate world works. So it took me almost 4 years. We can look at my career ladder. But from there onwards, I personally made sure that every 2.5 years, I was on the next ladder of my journey, because that's how you want to survive. You need to perform. You don't perform, you don't survive. And the thing is, more than networking, I was a person who wanted to showcase my talent by delivering things, not talking. It's more to do with how I deliver things. This is how it is. This is what was promised. This is what has been done. Whether it's going to be front or back, 5% up or down, that is a different story. But made sure always that projects that were given in hand, never left anything half-handed and walked away saying that this is not my cup of coffee. Somehow, with getting the right team, or maybe getting the right team, or making changes to the BDAs or the business cases, we have ring fence. But make sure, if you want to grow up in ladder, you have to make sacrifices. You have to work on everything in such a way that how you take yourself, you have to work with your job the same way. That's how the 13 years of career that went out. It was not a smooth ride. It was not bed of roses. But as a professional, I'm pretty satisfied with that 13 years of my career, which has given me that ample uh, depth of knowledge that has helped me to become what I am today.
All right. So key takeaways for our audiences from this question is, first and foremost, smart work plus hard work, networking, no risk, no growth. So these are the key takeaways from this question. All right. So moving forward to another question. You have earned a number of professional upskilling certificates. So which of them do you consider to be the most decisive, and why?
So learning is something that doesn't is some so academics is very different from learning. That's what I believe. So academics is for the world to notice you on your, like, to showcase that, oh, I'm qualified, this is what I minimum that I bring onto the table. But learning is a continuous process that cannot stop. You stop learning, you're done. So I'm from that generation. I'm a millennial. So I'll just put it very easy. From that generation who used to use telephones at home, telephone lines at home, all the way to smartphones today. So I have seen that full journey of what the electronic revolution. So my dad used to be part of the electronics revolution era. From that onwards, today's gadgetless, everything on cloud era, I have journeyed through the entire thing. And I've seen the change. So it's a tremendous change that has helped things to churn up quickly. So those days, during at least 20 years back, if one can remember, things used to be in a way that everything used to be on papers. You want to go to a college, you want to get into an office, everything was, you need to send, for example, if you want to go to an office, you have to send a physical CV. Emailing was there, yes, in certain organizations, but not in most organizations. You want to read something, you want to look at the regulatory documents, that's how you do it. So that change is something that I have come across, and that is something that has helped as a person to grow, if my answer is okay with the thing you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So moving forward, Mr. Vijay, given the vast professional purview you have handled, one of them being governance, what governance related functions have you played?
So when it comes to governance, as I told in the start of this interview, governance is something that, for part of governance, corporate governance definitely, but it has to start with all the way from the board, or starting up of an organization, all the way to, I used to go up to level 5 of a process mapping exercise, where what one liner of a board charter says cascades down all the way to a person standing in, let's say, for a bank, because that's the industry. Financial services was one of the key industries that I worked on for almost 13 years. And the back of the hand, I can say a new law is passed in a country, or that the board has taken over, or the board of the bank has says, okay, this is something we have to comply with. But to comply it is not a one line process. They will say, yes, we are going to comply with. How you comply with is the entire pyramid structure, I would put it, from all sides. Like it's like a triangle that goes down and having walls all the sides. There were so many aspects that need to change. And from that board charter perspective, all the way till how it is done, how it is executed, whether it's working or not working. Going back to the regulator and saying, yes, we are compliant enough. So the whole spectrum of governance was the key that I looked into for almost 10, 12 years of my career. Were think people would say, okay, this is government comes up with new regulation, we cannot do it, so why not? Things have to change. We are nothing is stagnant. Everything has to change. So when let's say, so 2000, I'll give you a perfect example. 2008 was when the last financial crisis happened. There is a crisis coming in the south, but still, 2008 was a crisis. I was very young, and that change, sudden change of regulations, or the level plane that we knew till then, everything changed overnight. By 2011, organizations had to start behaving differently. And this was all corporate governance. Governance had to change from the top and had to cascade all the way down. So somebody from, let's say, stand from the IT, or from the tellers, or anybody for that matter in a bank, had to behave differently, to understand differently. Information collection became different. Everything got different. So governance is there in every walk of the organization, even our lives. The governance is something that we change. So I take it as how a society would function versus how it would be happen with the organization. That is what governance, the role I play, and that's how I look at things. So it becomes easy for people to relate.
All right, that sounds incredible. So, moving ahead, as an ESG and corporate governance expert, what values do you bring to the table? That is part A. And besides, as you might have come across in your ACDP training module, what qualities do you believe are indispensable for a board member?
So first thing, I'll go with the first question, ESG and governance. So ESG is, though it is an old term, it's been used a lot relatively today, because organizations, or the governments, ministries, everything have started to understand that we have to take care of ESG. Earlier, if you take 5 years back, it was all, we were all talking about social responsibility, corporate responsibility. But today, it's corporate or social responsibility has been almost, it has become like not something that can be held by an HR. That is not what was the idea or the ideology that was placed when it comes to environmental governance. So environmental governance, the only thing is, if we want to survive today and if we want to have a future, whether it's an organization, whether it's a country, if it is a environment, name it, we need to bring in some principles. We need to be bind by some principles or regulations which make sure that our future, in the sense, it can be consumers, it can be our children, it can be uh, our generations to come, that we do the right thing, we show them the right path, so that these things all survive in the best of form. Of course, reducing the efforts or the effects on the planet. So that is when it comes to ESG and governance. That is something that we all need to look at. When it comes to a board member, after coming to India, I have had the opportunity to work with many startups. I have sat with at least 40 plus startups in the last 3, 4 years. And I've worked closely with about 7 of them. So one is there on my CV, but the rest of them, because they didn't want to name, perfectly fine with me. So I have sat through it. Organizations, or the boards, or the people who, so there are two parts to it. One is the people who started an organization, and the other one is the people who invested the money and who are sitting on the board. These two, so one talks about how the technology has to be built, how the business has to grow, and things like that. The other one, the investors, they, what end of the day, look at two things: is the company running well, are we making profits? So this is a juggle game, that something we have seen across the nation, actually across the globe, especially with when it comes to a new setup organization and small and medium MSMEs, as the government of India says, the MSME sector. That is something I have seen, that the board has to, because there is no formal training given to a board, right? So people like me have sat in these boards as a spectator or as a consultant, usually as an advisor. That is what I have sat in. I'm not sat in as an independent director today. It's always as an advisor. The thing is, they all talk different languages. Let's say one has an understanding of the technical subject, fine. Somebody talks about the finance, fine. So there is no hand holding in between, and the meetings just go haywire. But your program is something that I actually, one thing I liked of is so structured enough that the government papers, the regulations that have been put on, has been broke down into 9 to 18 minute video files, which actually gives a person like me just to go through it, look at the regulations, and understand, oh, this is exactly what I've said. I don't need to read 30 odd pages. Instead, the whole information has been put on in 9 minutes. See, it's all, as we always say, reading a book is the best thing, yes. But reading a book or watching a movie, you read the same book in, let's say, 1 month's time, whereas you finish watching a movie in 3 hours, which is adapted from it. So adaptation is always good at times when you don't have time to do things. So in today's change of regulatory space for businesses and for all kind of setups, let's say digital banking is something that happened in last 4 5 years. If you talk to people before 5 years, it's nothing. So in your program, especially in the one thing I really enjoyed about the digital professional part, the director's part, it has made it very crystal clear of what need to be focused and what need not be focused, and what are the things that are going to happen in future, which gives me a person with no with a little technical background, because I'm more a commerce management governance person who has not been much into the IT or let's say onto your IoTs and things that are happening in the world right now, which has started in the last 5 6 years. Let's say after 2015, that's when all these things came as a trend, and things are moving so quickly that it's difficult to focus on one because the train is gone, because it's runs onto the other side. Whereas your program, that gave me a kick. Actually, I would use the word kick here, because that gave me a thing that I was able to connect the dot within 3 weeks. I finished a program in 3 weeks of that specific module. Of course, I need to take free time. And I went through the thing. I was like, okay, so now I know what is happening. I just need to build a fort on top of it, because the infrastructure has been provided, or at least the raw materials, or no, I won't say raw materials, semi-finished product has been provided to me. I just need to build a fort on top of it. And that was extremely helpful when it comes to that program. And I really have talked to at least a few CSs, CAs, and lawyers in my network. I said, this thing is good. If you're planning to move in this direction, I believe you should take something like this from your organization, or there are at least 4 or 5 organizations who have been back in talks with. But the materials that you have provided, something I really look out to, and it's pretty comprehensive and easy to understand. I'll make it very simple. It's easy to understand for a non-lawyer, non-technical person. Over to you.
Mr. Vijay, thank you for sharing such amazing insights into different subjects. Talking about technology, so let's discuss it in depth and its impact on your professional landscape. So here is my question to you. What are some of the most remarkable changes you have seen in your field with changes in technology? That is part A. And what changes do you expect to see with the advent of IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, big data, Web 3.0, digital twins, cloud, etc.?
So going to this, as I started earlier in one of the questions I had actually pointed out, I started with the electronics era. So I started from that era using my first mobile phone at the age of 14 or 15. Of course, it was a brick phone with the numbers, with what the phones today are. So from that journey, things went in such a soaring space, especially post pandemic. So things which we were not supposed to do, or we were not supposed to have, for example, this interaction, this was not permissible at that point in time. So you want to meet somebody, you have to meet somebody in person. So you can have chats, you can have chit chats and all those things, but not official meetings were not permissible with this. But today, post pandemic or during the pandemic, we realized that technology has to be the basis going forward, because time and space is something that doesn't wait for anybody. So if you want to have the right kind of results, we need to adapt with all the changes that is happening. So let's say blockchain was one of the best technologies. So while sitting during the pandemic without much of work, that is one area that I started looking at, was blockchain. And I did a 9 month odd course with one of the leading institutes in India with when it comes to as a senior professional for blockchain. With that, that gave me an opportunity to understand where we are heading to. So whether it's 3.0, whether it's IoT, name it, there's a plenty of them. Trust me, we are still looking at only at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much of technology that is happening, so much that has been testing in these days. Where the other day I met somebody who in another state, in the state of Tamil Nadu. So I was there for business, and I met somebody who has no store, nothing. They are weavers basically, and one of their grandchild is actually selling the stuff online. They don't have a store, they don't have a registration, they have nothing. They all these years, what they used to do is they're like what do you call it? A cottage industry kind of thing. They build their stuff, they take it to the nearest market, they sell it. Their grandchild, who is in her teenage, must be in that 16 to 20 years of that age category. She is pretty net savvy, and she was showing me that, okay, nowadays this is what we do. We put it on Amazon, we put it on Flipkart or the other e-commerce websites, and we get it sold through it, and we have better profits. This is something that was not even thought about pre 2020. So technology is something we have to embrace. It's like how having driving a car. So back in the day, if somebody said I don't drive car in the 80s or 90s, it was a normal thing. But today, if somebody says I don't drive a car, that because it's a necessity. You have to drive a car, or for ease of movement, you need a car, right? So similarly, or motorcycle or whatever, any vehicle for that matter. Similarly, if you don't embrace technology with the right mind, thinking that, oh, this is not going to happen, or we need to try every technology that comes out into the market, because there is somebody's job is going to get easen up, and somebody is going to get a better horizon in their life when they do things. So for example, I do a lot of studies online. I have stopped going into institutions or sitting there for 3 hours, or I have to fly all the way to Mumbai to attend a seminar. Those days have done. I'm sitting in Kerala right now. I want to do a seminar in Mumbai or in Delhi. I get a Zoom link. I go through it. I finish it. If required, I want to play it back. I ask them for the recorded version. I go through it. I listen to it again if I have to take notes or something. It has become easy. Things have become easier from that. So with this technology moving, and also other thing, commendable thing that I saw in last 1 year is I have looked at the NEP of 2020. That is a national education policy of this country. It's amazing, especially when it comes to the technology learn. A class 8 student is taught how to do coding, not any coding, not block coding or stack coding, proper Python coding. That is something like I have seen for people who join the MNCs in the IT MNCs in this country. They do it in the first 6 months. So if you are a non-IT personnel, you go into an MNC. The first 6 months they put you as a trainee, and these are the same courses that are taught. So our future generations have started embracing technology. My son is in grade one. He knows how to use a mobile phone. He knows how to use a laptop and a tab. And I didn't teach him. He goes on to YouTube, clicks in, gets what he wants. Of course, I do a bit monitoring to understand what he is looking at. That is the, but at the same time, he studies from time to time things which I thought was a luxury. For him, it's a necessity. So when it comes to all these technologies, without technology, we are not going ahead. Today, we have taken out the borders for, let's say, with the state boundaries have been taken out. Future is there are organizations that have started working globally, but I think anybody from, let's say, anybody sitting in a rural area in this country is moving in that direction where they become tech savvy. It's a necessity, not a luxury, that I'm trying to say. So it becomes a necessity, and especially with the industry 3.0 that is around the corner. It has already started and moving into the rural zones, as well as the urban population is embracing it in such a way that without which nothing works. There is no internet. We are not. It's going to be like breathing. Internet is going to become more like what we do as breathing as humans. We need internet to understand anything and everything. I know there are challenges to it, and I'm not commenting on the challenge because there's a bright side to it. Anything there is a challenge, there are negatives to it, but in this session, I don't want to go into that direction. because there's so much of immense positivity that somebody who is 70-year-old wants to see a doctor in these days. You can book appointments, for example, on your WhatsApp. They have WhatsApp them. Doctors give you the time to meet them. If you're critically ill, at least in the state of Kerala, that's something I've seen. Doctors visit your home and say, "Sir, we are coming here to examine you." So there'll be a doctor and a nurse. This was practically impossible for a person if you look 15 years back. So technology is something we have to embrace and we have to run with it. You don't run with it, we lose the battle quickly. That's it from me.
All right, great, Mr. Vijay. Your insights must have been really insightful for our viewers. In fact, I too have had a lot of learnings from you. So my take-back points are, first and foremost, hard work plus smart work. Second thing is risk hai to isk hai. Like no risk, no growth. Technology is present and future, so embrace it. And businesses are all people, right? All right. So before we end the session, what do you think about our initiative for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts, led by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Hewil Mehta, and the whole team of World Development Corporation?
Yes, with that, this is an excellent platform. I'll be very honest about it because a person sitting here and not knowing what to be done next. So I moved to India in 2019, as I said earlier, and I'm having smaller clients right now because the geographic bandwidth that I've got is small. So it's mostly startups, MSMEs, and new generation banks, or NBFCs as we call it here. These are the industry that I'm looking at right now for consulting. Again, it's a governance, operations, finance kind of, it's a triangle, let's put it that way. So I help organizations to come out from that. So new startups and things like that. But this platform, so when somebody, first of all, I got like one or two people who called me up and said, there is this initiative. I think you are a perfect. I said, my understanding is this kind of platform is for anybody who is 55 plus. That was my initial thought, because people with vast wealth of information, people who are have immense number of years of experience. So for me, somebody with immense number of experience is 20 years. But when I moved to India, I understood that people like me have wealth of experience that people here in 30s don't have, unfortunately, because that's the kind of exposure you get at times when you live and work abroad for a few years with the right setup. I'm not saying all setups, but if you get into the right the setup, your learning curve is like, that's how it goes. It's not it doesn't go in that tangent, it goes straight up. Of course, it's very stressful, yes, but here life is pretty chilled, honestly speaking. Of course, the traffic is pretty difficult, but otherwise the work life is pretty chilled here. I see all my clients, I see all my cousins and everybody when they work. I'm like, you guys work what, 9 to 12 hours? I'm like, we used to work round the clock at times, including weekends. Here weekend is something nobody can challenge, and people work only 8 hours. Vast majority works only 8 hours, and that is something I'm so happy to be in an environment like that, because even I get time to have a second life, or a, let's say, personal life. Let's put it that way. So this platform, when I was told, I initially left it. So this, I'm hearing about this platform, I think sometime in October, September, October of last year. And sometime later, somebody referred my name to your team, and they got in touch with me. And they said, "This is the link, sir. Why don't you sit for the thing with Hemant and Havel Mehta, and get it. Why don't you go through it, sir?" I said, "Fine." Anyways, it was an evening, I remember, and I sat for it. I had the first session. I was like still skeptical. Do I want to do it? I sat for the second. The third, I said, "I'm signing up for this," because it was not the persuasive aspect of it. It was the growth aspect and the spectrum that was being put in front of me. Was what was That was something that I got really intrigued with. I was like, wow, this is nice. This is something I need to look at. And whether that's going to give me more money or not is a secondary question. But this is going to give me a lot of insight on what it is like to be in India. What is it like, what the organizations believe and the ideologies and understand. So if I have to penetrate, I need to understand the nuances of what the organizations are looking at, whether an organization that has been asked to be ruled by SEBI, or it's going to be by the government bodies, or it's going to be just a private company or a startup, MSME or a startup. So this gave me an opportunity, and through the sessions and through the other meetings, and all, I got an opportunity to look and understand of how other people are thinking, how other senior professionals. I'm mid professional. I would put with kind of vast information that they have brought in. Certain meetings I've seen people like they come with wealth of information. So like they say, sharing is caring. Here the care is my cerebral capacity is building up, and that gave me a lot of insight. And this is something you have to go a more, I think you need to take it a bit more forward, because 10 years of experience, I'm sure there are people out there of Indian nationality living across outside India who with 5 or 6 years reaches this kind of cerebral capacity, what you're looking for. Here it says 10 years on your browser, it says you need to have 10 years of corporate experience. Trust me, in other world parts of the world, the corporate experience that you're looking for is 5 to 6 years. So the one takeaway I would say is you need to expand more, which will give you more horizon, as well as they will get an horizon if they want to move back to India. So people like me, it took me 3 years to start my roots process or my tentacles to the industry. But somebody who comes new to India after a few years experience, they want to come back, understand things. Your platform is pretty good. I'll be very honest about it, because it gives a lot of understanding. It gives you a lot of interactive sessions. That is something I really like. Especially a boardroom session was amazing. Something I sat through and I was like, okay, I had inhibitions sitting there, and when I saw the others performing, myself performing, I was like, this is this is what I'm looking for. Over to you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay Kumar Puthukulangara, for joining us today. And we wish you the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute has unquestionably expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds.
Yes, again, thank you very much for today's opportunity for this interview. And it's been a great journey for the last 6 months I've been having with your institution. Initially, there were some ups and downs, but the last 2, 3 months have been fantastic when it comes to the program and the finishing and things like that. I'm really impressed with the way things are handled from your organization's end too. And my best wishes to the whole team there. And let's see in the market. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and have a nice day.